I don't come from a musical family.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the entertainment. You see, my father was a diplomat and he was posted to Portugal as an ambassador. Now, the ambassadorial residence is always already furnished. Now, I guess the person who owned it was a music lover. Okay. So he had a music room and he had a piano in there. For me, it was a toy in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I used to just play it. And then after a while, I began to make a little bit of sense out of it. Acha, ye tune bhi nikal aati hai. Okay, that's nice.
I always see that despite being it's a fact established you are an Indian citizen, why there are so many brickbats?
It is the ex-lover syndrome, which is like मुझे छोड़ के चले गए मुझे तो अच्छा भी नहीं लगता था अब तो खत्म हो गया उसने कुछ किया ही नहीं हम किया जो था उसने सिर्फ पाकिस्तान में किया था उसने वहाँ पे तो कुछ भी नहीं किया. There are some pains that never go away. The only difference is that you just learn to live with it.
When Live Kara De came, oh my god, that was a cassette which my father bought and I had burnt it out.
Gen Z will never understand कि cassettes to have a burnout कैसे होती. The credit of that goes to Asha ji. I wanted to record her in London. लंदन में क्यों करना चाह रहे हो? मैंने कहा आशा जी मैं वहाँ पे लोगों को जानता हूँ एटसेट्रा क्योंकि हिंदी में तो फिर बॉम्बे आओ जो चीज़ अगर यहाँ पे चल जाएगी तो वो फिर पूरी दुनिया में फैलेगी. And then कभी तो नजर मिलाओ was released and the rest is history. I suddenly got a call from Salman. He said it's a Qawali. I said, bro, seriously? Qawali? I said, I've never done a Qawali. I've never sung a Qawali. I've composed Qawali, but never sung it. He said, that's exactly why I want you to do it.
But what was this lift? Like, who got this? I need to know this.
I was recording with a guy, with an engineer, who for some strange reason used to just love listening to music at a very, very, very low volume. Sometimes I would want him to increase the volume without speaking. So I would give him a sign, I would be like, that the moment I would walk in, I'd say, okay, you remember what you need to do, right?
And that's how we got
that's how, and then we used to start, just dancing in the studio, just doing that. The audiences, they'll, in the middle of the concert also, we want this. मेरे वालिद साहब ने मुझे कहा कि ये इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक सुनो तो मैंने जब सुना तो मुझे बेहद पसंद आया और मैंने उनको कहा मैं उनके साथ लड़ पड़ा. मैंने कहा कि आपने मुझे पियानो पे क्यों इतना ज़्यादा encourage किया? Why didn't he? क्या मतलब? I said I want to play Indian classical music, but I can't. He said why can't you? I said because I play the piano. He said so? So I said well the piano is not meant for Indian classical music. It's a Western music. So you can? And I said yeah, I can.
Hi guys, this is Ankita, you're tuned to Bollywood Bubble, and for the new episode of Melody Tales, I think nobody better than Adnan Sami can tell me how exactly he has managed to captivate the hearts of all the audience across the borders, here and there, everywhere. What's so special about your music, Adnan?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I mean, in the sense that, I don't think anybody can answer a question of this nature about themselves. That what is it that sort of makes your whatever it is that you do work so much with so many different people from different parts of the world and different age groups and all that. This is something that I really, honestly speaking, I don't know, and I'm not trying to be humble. I'm actually I don't know. It's just. At best I can say is that, whatever I do it from the heart. So maybe it just reaches the heart. I don't know. But then again, does that mean that others don't? Of course, everybody does, I don't know. The answer is very simple, I don't know. But it's just, whatever it is, I'm very grateful to God and I'm highly grateful to the audience, because we are nothing without the audience. So, thank you for listening.
Let's take it from the beginning. Tell me about
how it all began.
No. Your introduction to the music, technically, because this is at least as per my research.
Okay.
Your introduction to music was from your father sahab itself, or was it something you were always very inclined? What attracted you? Because nobody decides when they're a kid like कि मुझे ये बनना है. We have 100 ambitions.
Yeah.
But what was your ambition? Did it change over the course of time, or it just some
Well,
influence?
I mean, first of all, I don't come from a musical family.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, in my family, there were, there were bureaucrats, there were politicians, there were lawyers. Nothing to do with the entertainment.
You did
industry.
law, na?
I did law. Yeah.
That's why I'm asking. What is your father's outcome?
You see, my father. You see, my father was a diplomat, and he was posted to Portugal
Okay.
as an ambassador.
Okay.
And we were living in Lisbon.
Okay.
And now the ambassadorial residence is always already furnished. You just arrive there with just your bags and your belongings and your photographs and your clothes and toothbrush, and everything else is taken care of.
Of course.
It's a completely fully furnished running house. Now, it so happened that at that time, that particular house was bought by the embassy, I guess, before we even arrived. It was bought by the previous administration or whatever, lock, stock and barrel with the furniture and everything from whomsoever owned it. Now, I guess the person who owned it was a music lover.
Okay.
So he had a music room.
Wow.
And he had a piano in there. So, the piano sort of वो जहेज में आ गया था क्या कहते हैं
वो attract कर गया.
हाँ तो वो that was already there. It was already there because they had bought it with the furniture and the piano was part of it. So when we arrived over there, the piano was already there. My father, I mean, all right, he had nothing to do with music as a profession, but he was a great lover of the arts.
Okay.
So I mean, whether it was music and in music, so many different genres. So whether it was modern music, jazz, Hindi music, Indian classical, the works, opera, everything, Western classical. So he used to love music. He was a connoisseur of music as well as poetry. Kabhi wo, sometimes he would be, he'll be quoting Macbeth, and on the other hand, he'll be quoting Mir Taki Mir, and he'll be quoting Ghalib. And he just loved the arts. And so, but never indulged in it as such. So what he did was, whenever, this piano was there, so I used to, from time to time, for me it was a toy in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I used to just play it, and just play with it as a toy.
As a toy.
तो खिलौने की तरह मैं उसको खेलता था, and then after a while, I began to make a little bit of sense out of it. कि अच्छा ये tune भी निकल आती है. Oh, okay, that's nice. So that's how I slowly and gradually started to develop my passion for music. And, to cut the long story short, my father saw that I had a passion for music. And when other people started to tell him that, hey, and people that mattered, people like from BBC. And BBC was at that time, there were very few organizations at that time. BBC was considered an authority, and if somebody from BBC turned around and said,
"How did they spotted you?"
They spotted me at a concert, because what happened was I was in a talent show in my school over there, and in there the bureau chief of BBC was his. Children were also studying in the same school, the American school over there. And he heard me play, and he met my father, and he knew my father, and he sort of turned around and said to my father, he said, "Your son is very talented, and I hope you're developing his talent, because he's got a lot of potential and all that." So when my father heard him say that, it meant a lot, because there was a certain authority and credibility that came with that. And that's when my father started to say, okay. So then he started to encourage me. When I suddenly started to talk about wanting to make it my profession and to make, he then said to me, he said, "Dekho, हमारी फैमिली में कभी किसी ने इस प्रोफेशन में हाथ नहीं डाला, तो मैंने सुना है कि ये बड़ा मुश्किल प्रोफेशन है और बहुत ही कम लोग इसमें कामयाब होते हैं, तो एक काम करो, ना ही मैं तुम्हें गाइड कर सकता हूँ क्योंकि मुझे भी कोई एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, तो एक काम करो, मैं तुम्हें हर चीज़ में इंकरेज करूँगा, मैं तुम्हें सपोर्ट करूँगा हर तरह से, लेकिन मेरे लिए एक काम करो कि गेट योरसेल्फ अ सॉलिड एजुकेशन." हर
माँ बाप की कहानी कि जो करना है करो, बस पहले पढ़ाई करो।
तो वो गेट योरसेल्फ अ सॉलिड एजुकेशन, ताकि मुझे पता हो कि अगर ये चीज़ नहीं होती तो तुम्हारे पास एक बैकअप हो। तो मैंने I understood where he was coming from when he was saying that. तो अच्छा उस वक्त मैंने सोचा कि I'm doing him a favor or something like that, क्योंकि मैं हमेशा ये कभी-कभी जब मैं frustrate होता था तो मैं कहता यार what does I mean dissecting a frog have to do with Rag Darbari? What has that got to do with it? And but today, when somebody starts talking about dissecting a frog, I'll be able to talk about it.
And education is always
and
helpful.
Education, and this is what I say to everybody, that education is something that will take you everywhere. It widens your horizon.
Exactly.
And at times it also helps to make you cocky. And I'll tell you why. Because many a times what happens is because of lack of education, you are a little subdued. Your confidence level is a little less.
I agree.
तो अभी क्या होता है कि जब आपके पास एजुकेशन होती है तो आप कॉन्फिडेंट होते हैं तो कहते हैं कि जी मैं ये करूँगा. अरे क्यों करोगे? क्यों ना करूँ?
क्योंकि आपकी रीजनिंग पावर.
हाँ, because you are able to reason and you are able to sort of logically approach a subject and you sort of say कि अगर किसी ने पहले नहीं किया तो उसका ये मतलब थोड़ी कि नहीं हो सकता. And that is how I came to playing piano, Indian classical music on the piano, which nobody had done before.
And that's how you became the child prodigy per se, like with the world records up to your name.
Yeah, I mean, वहीं पे रखना, नहीं लिया, बताइए यहाँ पे कैमरे लगे हुए हैं, तो उसका तेल लेने जा.
अब आप आ गए.
अब आके ऐसी की तैसी कर दिया, लिया, चलो.
It's okay, उनकी भी गलती.
कोई बात.
It's okay, कुछ नहीं हुआ. It's okay, don't be so scared. हम Indian classical music on piano and you being this child prodigy.
Yeah, so the thing was that I so I got that confidence of sort of one of the things that education also does, which is great, it teaches you to question.
Yes.
And ask questions. All right, okay, why? I mean, when I was studying law, I used to always irritate my professors. They say, what we need to do is we need to have the reasonable man test. Would a reasonable man steal this scissor?
Okay.
And I say that, why would you do a reasonable man test? A reasonable man would never do that. So why are you giving the reasonable man test? It's an unreasonable man who would do it. So why are you giving him a reasonable man test?
Exactly.
So he used to get, we used to go around in circles. If the person, so that's what education does.
Yes.
It makes you question. And therefore, in my profession also, which is music, it gave me the confidence to question many things. Like for example, जब मेरे वालिद साहब ने मुझे कहा कि ये इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूज़िक सुनो, तो मैंने जब सुना तो मुझे बेहद पसंद आया और मैंने उनको कहा, मैं उनके साथ लड़ पड़ा. मैंने कहा कि आपने मुझे पियानो पे क्यों इतना ज़्यादा इंकरेज किया? Why didn't he said, क्या मतलब? I said, I want to play Indian classical music.
Wow.
But I can't. He said, why can't you? I said, because I play the piano. He said, so? So I said, well, the piano is not meant for Indian classical music. It's a Western music. So, you can? And I said, yeah, I can. I mean.
So we should be crediting your father, Asha.
Yes, of course.
That.
My father gave me that.
He actually opened a new career for you, which nobody thought.
Absolutely.
Like an Indian classical piano.
He laid it out on me. I mean, he sort of said कि आखिर तबला नहीं बना पखावज को तोड़ के. हारमोनियम जो था वो तो बैंड था in All India Radio में, because it was not considered a classical music instrument. आज जो है, it is an integral part of Indian classical music. I mean, there were so many examples. I mean, the violin. The violin is part of Hindustani and Carnatic music. You look at so many instruments, which are now an integral part of our music. So, and then जब मैंने फिर उसके ऊपर जब रिसर्च करनी शुरू की, मुझे पता लगा कि यार पियानो और संतूर जो है वो तो they belong to the same musical family.
Wow.
So that's when.
How old were you, Adnan, at that time?
I was I must have been about 13 years old. 13, 14.
So what is this like? From where did this come? I know it's gifted also in Touchwood. It is the fastest piano player, all the names, all the tags which come with it. Kahan se?
honestly speaking,
Of course, I know practice. I will give it to everyone, please.
Well, I mean, there's no shortcut to anything.
Yeah, there's no shortcut to anything.
No, I mean, there's absolutely. I mean,
साधना का तभी तो कहते हैं music.
बिल्कुल. I mean, there are no elevators, there are no escalators towards success. You have to work it. But honestly speaking, I mean, tags जो हैं वो दुनिया बना देती है. You don't set out for it. I mean, for example, आपने जो कहा, for example, the fastest pianist thing. I never set out for that. It's not a sport. It's not a sport. I mean, you know, it's not as if you're doing a 50-meter dash or a 100-meter dash and you're like, all right, now start playing. You know.
But I have seen you playing, so I know.
But you see, the point is that these are things that when you're doing it out of passion, people see it. People come up with their own conclusions and their own interpretations and their own tags.
That's the way to show the love also.
And of course, it's all love at the end of the day. You know, it's all appreciation in different forms, and you go with it. You know, and you know, but it's not something that you set out to do. Music is about melody. You know, and so. It's just that when I started, you see, अब हमारा जो Indian classical music है उसमें अलग-अलग movements होती हैं अपनी recital में. आलाप होता है, जोड़ होता है, क्या कहते हैं, विलंब, मध्यलय, and then you have Dhruv, which is the fastest tempo, which is the crescendo of the performance. Now everybody's got their own way of interpreting their crescendo. I mean, and it usually sort of the tempo sort of starts rising. Now some people have a much slower tempo, but that is their finale. I happen to take it to a ridiculous tempo, but that is not because that is not by design. It's through my passion. This is where I want to explode. And that is where I want it to culminate, you know. So, you know, like I said, everybody's got their own way of expressing their emotions and their finales. I'm desperately trying to avoid using a word, but you know, that's okay. People will understand.
People will understand. Yeah. Then what got you to Bollywood?
I'm just going round in circles from that word.
Yeah, there's something we should not just say.
Climax.
But Bollywood kaise fir Adnan, for somebody navigating the borders, I always say music has no language, music has no borders. But then to come here, and I remember when Lift Karade came, oh my God, that was a cassette which my father bought and I had burnt it out. Uski dono sides kharab kari thi maine. And more than that, I was obsessed with the video.
Gen Z will never understand कि cassettes जो है वो burnout कैसे होती है या घिस कैसे जाती है.
Guys, जब वो ऐसे अड़ता है उसको ऐसे घुमाने का जो nobody will get it. Like how take a pen and just keep on doing it and doing it. That's a joy.
It's like dissecting an MP3.
So हम बॉलीवुड कैसे आए? कैसे डिसाइड किया कि ये एक मेन स्ट्रीम म्यूजिक में डैबल करना है मुझे?
Well, actually, the credit of that goes to Asha Bhosle ji. I mean, what had happened was that I wanted to record I had known her since childhood, and she had always been very, very supporting, and we had done some work in the 90s also, in early 90s, 92, 93.
At that time, you were composing majority for the Pakistani music fame. Yes,
that's right. And so now I wanted to record her in London. And this is around 99 की बात है. तो उन्होंने कहा कि Sami, why in London? लंदन में क्यों करना चाह रहे हो? मैंने कहा आशा जी मैं वहाँ पे लोगों को जानता हूँ एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा, तो वहाँ पे अच्छा है, वहाँ पे रिकॉर्ड करेंगे, मैं लोगों को जानता हूँ, वहाँ से फिर हम रिलीज़ करेंगे. तो चीज़ें हिंदी में है. मैंने कहा हाँ जाहिर है, क्योंकि हिंदी में तो फिर तुम बॉम्बे आओ, बॉम्बे में रिलीज़ करो और बॉम्बे में काम करो, क्योंकि दिस इज़ द कैपिटल फॉर हिंदी म्यूज़िक. एंड जो चीज़ अगर यहाँ पे चल जाएगी तो वो फिर पूरी दुनिया में फैलेगी. तो तुम यहाँ पे आओ, तुम लंदन की बातें मत करो. तो लिटरली मैंने आई टुक हर एडवाइस. वैसे भी उनकी एडवाइस जो है वो सर आंखों पे है, और एंड शी इज़ लाइक अ मदर टू मी. And I came over to Mumbai, and we started, working on different things. And then Kabhi To Nazar Milao was released, and the rest is history. All I can say. I mean, it just opened a completely new.
Until date, fascinated and I got a chance, so I'm asking you, how did you do that gorgeous lineup, those music videos? Please, I need a lowdown. How did that happen?
I just asked.
You just got everyone. You got from Bachchan to Rani. I'm like, how?
You know, it's a simple thing. I work on a very simple philosophy in life, and that is that when you want to do something, go for it. At worst scenario, it won't happen, but it's not the end of the world.
But ask for it.
But try. There's nothing stopping you from trying. I mean, I was a huge. You see, when it comes to Amitabh Bachchan ji, I was a childhood fan of his, you know, and it was always a dream of mine to work with him, you know. And so it was a bucket list, as it were, you know. It was one of those things that I really wanted to do, and I knew him, he knew me, and one day I just turned up. You know, I went over to see him, and I played him this song, and he said, "Oh, that's a very nice song." I said, "It'd be even nicer if you sing it." You know, I said, "Me? What do you? Yeah, no way." And I said, you know, then, you know, I sort of tried to convince him, etc. And, you know, he said, leave it with me for a while and let me just sort of think about it and then I'll get back to you. And luckily he got back to me and then we did it. And it was a dream come true. Like I said, a childhood dream come true. And you see, like I said, what is the worst that could have happened? He would have said no. But one thing is, he wouldn't be offended. If you go to somebody and say, look, I really admire your work and I'd love to collaborate with you, I mean, you're not abusing the person. You're telling them that you like them, so it's a compliment in any case. If they have grace, they will. First of all, if they want to do it, they'll do it. But if they have grace, they will turn you down politely. Okay, fine. It didn't work out. All right, it's not the end of the world. We'll go and try something else. But it's better than living your life with the thought, यार मैं अगर चला जाता तो हो जाता, शायद हो जाता. No, don't live your life. Don't live your life with those what if. Give it a shot. You only have one life, and there's no sequel at the moment.
Give me a secret, and I know it's a choreographer, like a choreographer credit, but what was this lift? Like, who got this? I need to know. This is actually, me going back to my 90s.
No. This was, I'll tell you, it was a very simple thing. Again, it happened by chance.
Okay.
Because what used to, I was recording with a guy, with an engineer, who for some strange reason used to just love listening to music at a very, very, very low volume. So now I was like, now this is a song which has a tremendous amount of passion and, you know, sometimes I would want him to increase the volume without speaking. So I would give him a sign, I would be like, you know, and then he would increase the volume. And so, and it sort of, you know, it became a kind of a thing during that entire recording session, that the moment I would walk in, I'd say, okay, you remember what you need to do, right?
And that's how we got the iconic.
That's how, and then we used to start, you know, just dancing in the studio, just doing that. So when we were recording this particular, when we were shooting the video, we were trying all kinds of different things, and I just suddenly remembered, and I said to Bosco did the video, and so I did the choreography in that. So I said, you know, I have this particular thing that I keep doing, and he said, what is it? So I did that. He said, hey, you know what? This is really great. This is really great.
That's how iconic steps are made, guys.
He said, just do that. So I just ended up doing that, and it just sort of caught on, and
rest is history.
Yeah, the rest. Even today, I mean, you know, the audiences, you know, they'll in the middle of the concert also, we want this.
And I think that's the identity which gets attached to the music.
Yeah.
And then, apart from all the music repertoire you had, you also then decided to take a break of sorts, and then I remember it was Bajrani, you later on decided that, okay, maybe I'll come back, and the Qawali, of course, the lovely number. Does it get overwhelming for an artist after a certain point of time that they really need to recharge their batteries and take a back step, or was it all to do with any other turmoil? Because you were also going through so much otherwise in life as well. There was this weight loss journey you had embarked upon. There was, of course, the Citizenship battle which you ferociously fought, and I think it's commendable. You've always spoken about it. What exactly was going through in that patch of your life? There's so many things happened simultaneously,
Yeah.
and we lost you on the music scene.
Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right. I mean, and there were just so many things happening at the same time. Whether it was my citizenship, whether it was the weight loss, I was going through some personal problems also. Um, then my father also passed away. I mean, my father was an integral part of my life.
Yes,
You know,
I
he
can
was a real driving force. I don't think anything hit me as bad as losing him, because he was, I mean, he knew me so well. I mean, he was like my other self. You know, he was incredible. I mean, many times he would laugh at me and he would say, "Look, you're not going to like this." I said, "I like it." He said, "I'm telling you, I know you better than yourself. After 6 months, you're not going to like it." I said, "I'm going to like it." And then he said, "All right, okay, fine." So 6 months later, yeah, okay,
You were
fine.
right.
You were right, you know. So, I mean, he knew me so well. And he would be the first person that I would want to play my music to, because I mean, it was my he was my security blanket, and he was my amazing critic. And he was honest. I mean, he would tell me if something sucked, and he would tell me if something was terrible, and he would tell me if it was good and if it could be improved. So I mean, he was a great gauge for me, you know. So there was all that happening. I was trying to, it's strange. You spend a lifetime fearing that they will go.
Oh, the
And
last
and you spend a lifetime fearing that one day is going to come when they're going to go, and then that one day you're suddenly confronted with that reality that you feared for all your life, and then suddenly you say, "All right, now what?"
Oh, you were lost. Like when I lost my father, I'm like, I was lost. I had no idea.
Yeah.
You actually, you don't. I wouldn't say, of course, everyone has their own way of dealing, but you're lost.
Yeah, you're lost.
Because as you said, the fear turns into reality, and you don't know what to do now.
Yeah. I mean, it's strange because you spend your entire life fearing this eventuality, but you don't spend any time thinking of how you're going to deal with it.
Oh, no idea at all.
You know, and then when you are finally confronted with that reality, it just dawns upon you, and you're absolutely dumbstruck, and you just don't know how to deal with it. And I went through a very difficult period at that time of dealing with it. And there's some pains that never go away.
No.
But the only difference is that you just learn to live with them.
Yes.
That's it. There's nothing else. It's like if I pinch myself right now, immediately it's going to hurt. But if I keep it going, the hurt will be there.
Your body just accepts
But
that.
I will just learn to live with it until I go like this and that was painful. You know what I mean? So it's like that. It's there. So during that, so for that period, I mean, it's not that I wasn't composing. I was composing. Because that was my therapy. That was my therapy, to compose and to keep because I express my emotions through music. So, saves a hell of a lot from therapy.
But trust me, music is therapy.
Yes, it is.
It is.
I mean, but going to a shrink is
Yeah, been there, done that. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, that was my ultimate therapy. And so that was happening. But I was keeping to myself. And it took me a while to start opening up and all that. And, I joke about it sometimes and I say, well, I was just lazy. Well, no, not really. I mean, there were things that I needed to get a handle on in my own personal life. And also, I think one thing that is also, and it just happened by chance. In the process, it wasn't a deliberate thing, but in the process, because I was taking a sabbatical of sorts, it wasn't a voluntary sabbatical, it just so happened to be. But at that point in time, because I had a time on my side, I was able to just refuel and listen to a lot more music. And that was very good in the long run, because I just got myself updated as to what's going on and what are the changes, etc. Because when you're constantly giving and you're producing, you have very little time to sit back and listen also to what's happening. So it gave me an opportunity to just take in also. and listen to what's happening around the world, and and because music is all constantly evolving, and you need to constantly evolve with it. It's
And
very
that's how,
important.
like, when you decided that maybe now I'm ready and I can come out, and that's how Bajrangi then.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bajrani happened completely out of the blues because I mean, it wasn't something that I had planned. I suddenly got a call from Salman, and he said, "Hey, you know what? What's happening?" And I have this great song, and I said, "Oh, great, wonderful, great. It'd be lovely to get together again and do something." He said, "It's a Qawali." I said, "Bro,
Me and
seriously, Qawali?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I've never done a Qawali. I've never sung a Qawali. I've composed Qawwalis, but never sung it." He said, "That's exactly why I want you to do it, because I want you to bring in a fresh take on this genre, which I feel that you will be able to do, and because I don't want a typical Qawwal to sing it." So I said, "Okay. Well, I mean, if I have that freedom, I'd love to do it. Yeah, I mean, let's give it a shot." So I got together with Preetham, and we went into the studio. Had a great time doing it, and then suddenly Salman threw another googly at me and said, "Listen, I'd like you to be in the film with it being picturized on you." I said, "Bro, a Qawali, a Qawwal, moi, and he said, "Yeah." I said, "All right, So I love it when somebody pushes me.
To do the unexpected.
Yeah, because it was something that was very, very challenging and interesting, but I enjoyed it, and I'm very happy that I did it, and I'm even more delighted that people liked it, and very grateful.
And then allow me to ask you, I constantly, whenever I go through social media, I always see that despite being it's a fact established you are an Indian citizen, why there are so many brickbats? Why I'm asking you is, A, personally, as I said, music has no borders and boundaries. B, why is it so imperative to contain every narrative into political? I mean, is it important to have an opinion? Is it important for any person who's in creative fields to be apolitical or not political? I mean, I always see you being attacked time and again, and every time you are so proudly standing tall and making sure and telling the world that, hey, this is my nation, this is the music I produce. Why every time you have to like give a character certificate out there?
It's like an ex-lover.
It's a good one.
When an ex-lover sees you moving on and getting involved with somebody else, they'll always constantly come up with reasons to hate you. But the reason why they actually do that is because they still haven't gotten over you. And it's love. Yeah, and love manifests in many absurd ways. You can even say, कि अंगूर खट्टे हैं. But the point of the matter is that it's because I understand somewhere the psyche of how they feel, but they don't know the circumstances which led me to what happened, and it is ridiculous of anyone from anywhere to presume that they know what were the reasons behind it, but there were solid reasons behind it, and but at the end of the day, I mean, you can argue and say, well, people are migrating all over the world all the time. Why don't they have issues with them? First of all, because of the geopolitical nature between India and Pakistan, so there is that rivalry that is there for whatever reasons. We all know, but more than that, it is this the ex-lover syndrome, which is like
मुझे छोड़ के चले गए.
मुझे छोड़ के चले गए. मुझे तो अच्छा भी नहीं लगता था. अब तो खत्म हो गया. उसने कुछ किया ही नहीं. हम किया जो था उसने सिर्फ पाकिस्तान में किया था. उसने वहां पे तो कुछ भी नहीं किया.
I actually was going through this. Like, I mean, even when you did so much work in your 90s, the due credit I somehow feel it was here.
Yeah.
I mean,
I never got a single award or recognition from any government over there, ever. You know, I mean,
You've been making music for 40 years.
And I was making music for so many years, you know. So, it's, when you look at a lot of that, that is just the tip of the iceberg, you know. There's so many other things that I went through during that period. I have absolutely, and let me make it abundantly clear, my audience over there and the people over there have always been very loving.
Yes.
And they still are. And I love them very much even today. And I'm very grateful to them for all the love that they've given me. My issues have never been with them. And this is what they need to understand. My issues have been with the governments because the way they treated me. And they don't know this. And how are they to know? You know? So the fact of the matter is that I have always loved my audiences who, you know, as you mentioned about the artist thing, for an artist, जो उसको प्यार करेगा वो लेट जाएगा उसके सामने, क्योंकि आर्टिस्ट के लिए सबसे बड़ी खुराक जो है वो प्यार है। तो वो प्यार उसको जिस दुनिया के जिस कोने से मिलेगा वो उसका बहुत बहुत शुक्रगुजार होगा। तो मैं ये नहीं देखता कि अच्छा ये प्यार जो है ना, ये मुझे आ रहा है टिम्बकटू से, तो ये ज़्यादा दूर से आ रहा है तो ज़्यादा कीमती है ना। No, for me, everybody who loves me, I love them equally back. You know, and I have absolutely no issues with anybody. So the fact of the matter is that you know, some of the people get bitter because of the reason that I gave you, but the thing is that even that reason being is a form of love. You know, so so it's okay. You know, I mean, hopefully, you know, one day we'll just get over it. You know, but the point of the matter is that I still love them, and my music is for everybody, and I have not, you know, put any boundaries on my music.
Yeah.
You want to listen to it, most welcome. You know, you don't want to listen to it, thanks for trying. You know, I'm okay with that.
I think maybe because you're so vocal with your words and you're always so well addressed education, as we were discussing, that we are so well versed and we address situations, because I've read so much on you. I know we have so little time, but even
all the good things that you read about me, they're all true.
Well, I was just coming to that. Because
everything negative is a lie.
No. And I'm going to make a compliment for that only to you, because I remember you personally not just when you went through a separation and you went through all that tough phases. I never saw you making any statement. Trust me, when I was doing the research, I never found a statement from you. Of course, maybe from your estranged spouse. But you said nothing.
What is there to say? I mean, you know, sometimes, and this is something that I'd like to say to everybody, that look, I mean, you know, relationships come together. They come together on a beautiful note and a beautiful foundation, and that is love. So there was love there, you know. And sometimes what happens is that with time, for whatever reason, you know,
and there are 100 reasons.
And there could be 100 reasons. And the point is that it was, and a simple reason could be that it was just not meant to be, you know. And that doesn't make you a bad person or me a bad person. It's just destiny. It was just not meant to be. And now that doesn't mean that when you've come after a certain period of time, when you realize that, hey, it's not working, or this person is not, for whatever reason. But, all right, you know, you could part, and you could part and say, hey, listen, you know what, we tried. You know, it didn't work out for whatever reason. All right, maybe it ended on a fight, or it ended on a major clash of opinion, or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, when you part, you could just say, all right, okay, fine, it didn't work out, you know, sorry it didn't work out, but let's remember that once upon a time,
there was lots of love.
There was a lot of love, and let's just respect that.
Yes.
Let's just respect that and just move on. Okay, all right, you know, I mean, this person did bring me joy at a particular point in time, and we had some great moments together. And later on, for whatever reasons, it didn't work out. All right, we decided to part, but then you can do it gracefully. And it doesn't need to be...
I'll give it to you, because as I said, I did enough research to not find a single thing which I could find.
So It is part of life.
I would need another day with you someday to sit and go through the stories. But whatever time I had, oh my God, sir, you made me laugh and how. I mean, such a rich life, such beautiful musical anecdotes. Close it with me and tell me if there is a song in your repertoire which you want to keep to yourself, you would have not given it away to the audience, like just personally for yourself. What would have one be?
Actually, to be honest with you, there's no song that I would ever want to keep to myself.
Or was there a melody which, sometimes, it's just closest to you, your heart?
I think Tera Chehra. Tera Chehra is very special to me. I don't know why.
I love the video. I love the video.
Yeah. Tera Chehra is there's something special about it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Tera Chehra and Bhigi Bhigi Raaton Mein.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll add one more. I'll add Ek Ajnabi Si.
Ah, that's a great song. Yeah,
I don't know. I think with you and Lata Didi and that entire.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm very fortunate and blessed that every song, especially my independent songs, they represent very sort of special moments in my life, and they signify certain beautiful memories. Like you rightly mentioned, Shayad Ye To Pyar Hai with Lata ji, A Lift Kara De with Govinda,
Bhigi Bhigi
Raaton Mein, I mean, these are moments of my life, whether it was during the process of composing or whether it was otherwise. They represent moments, which are absolutely very special to me. And so, I see them in a very different way, Yeah.
And I think I have the best memories. Anyone who hasn't seen the songs, kindly just go Google, see the videos. You will know what we have been talking about, because that was a big chunk of me growing up and wasting all those tapes, and I'm still having them. But thank you, Adnan sir. I hope we get more music from you with the Unplugged from Auna with Asha Tai, waiting for that. And please, more love ballads.
Yes.
Requesting, please.
Yeah, I will. I promise I will. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to have some more music from you. But thank you so much
for
doing this.
My pleasure.
Thank
God
you.
bless. Take care. Hi, this is Adnan Sami, and you're watching me on Bollywood Bubble.
Take some pictures.